I'm Chris McAlilly. I'm one of the pastors at Oxford University United Methodist Church, and I really enjoyed talking with you about who we're called to be moving forward as a congregation in a new season of our life. We've talked about centering our life on Christ and committing ourselves to multiple ways of being hope-inspiring, character-forming, community-engaging, and bridge-building people. And in this last video, I want to talk about what it means to be bridge-building people. Now, we're all aware that the challenges and the struggles of our society and our time are quite severe, but I want to make it very plain for us. This past year, almost 70,000 people in America died of opioid addiction, and over 55,000 people committed suicide in our country. These are very serious problems, and there are multiple reasons for that, but undergirding a lot of what is happening in our world is a breakdown in social fragmentation. We long to be together, but we're apart from one another. We're isolated, not only by the pandemic, but by distrust and polarization, by trauma and incivility. We live in a hyper-individualistic culture that pays lip service to community, that talks about community online, but which actually tends to value individual success above relationships, ego above care, and the market above the common good, tribal divisions over common humanity. There's a rise of alienation, a rise of loneliness, and a loss of communal and common purpose and a common life. One of the people that's written a lot about this is the New York Times columnist David Brooks, and he writes about what we can do today and tomorrow to change things, to combat loneliness and division and distrust with relationships and community and purpose. This is what Brooks writes. He said, "We all create a shared moral ecology through our daily decisions of our lives. When we stereotype or abuse or impugn motives or lie about each other, we've ripped the social fabric and encouraged more ugliness and division. When we love across boundaries, when we listen patiently, when we see deeply and make other people feel known, we've woven it back together and reinforced generosity." I want us to be the kind of church that is bridge building and that has committed itself to reweaving the social fabric. I want us to be a people who devote our energies to healing rifts and healing divisions and healing our community. At the heart of being a bridge building people is really just the teachings of Jesus. Somebody asked Jesus one day, "What's the most important commandment?" And Jesus responded, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself." But that word neighbor is what's at issue. If you think about it from a biblical sense, there's no qualifier to the word. To be a neighbor in the biblical sense is not dependent on another person's socioeconomic status or race or gender or religion or sexual orientation or social standing or anything. Our neighbor, it's everybody. And that's a high call. It's a high command. And in fact, the Apostle Paul takes it one step further. This is what he says in 1 Corinthians chapter 12. "For just as the body is one and has many members, all of the members of this one body are one body, so it is with Christ. For in the one Spirit we're all baptized into one body, Jews, Greeks, slaves, and free, and we were all made to drink of one Spirit." Do you hear the word in that passage that gets repeated? It's all. We're called to embrace all people, to love our neighbors as ourselves. And in fact, we're all beloved children of God. I heard a preacher once say that part of what makes this difficult is that we're called to love our neighbors and we're called to love our enemies. And in fact, sometimes they're the same person. I don't know about you, but maybe it feels like the people that are hardest to love are the people that are closest to you. Nevertheless, it's what we're called to love our neighbor as ourselves. And for us as a congregation to be bridge building people, it's making an emphasis and a priority on being the kind of people who are inclusive and hospitable to a broad range of diverse people here in our community. I think that's one of our strengths as a congregation. If you come to OU, what you're going to find is you've got people all across the board. You've got prosecutors and public defenders. You've got people who are Republicans and Democrats. You've got people who disagree and differ on a whole range of questions and positions. But what brings them together is their commitment to Christ. We all come together to the table acknowledging that we are sinners in need of God's mercy and grace. We all come to the table to receive the body and blood of Jesus with open hands and with open hearts. Now, the world is just bursting with forces and powers that are trying to pull us apart and to drive wedges between us. And I think that we can be an even stronger force in our community that draws the community together. How do we do that? We do it by honoring each other. We do it by not withdrawing from conversations. We do it by staying at the table even when it's difficult. We can model respect and humility across intellectual differences. Building bridges isn't easy anytime, and I don't think it's easy at this time, but it calls for the cultivation of a certain kind of character, to become people who listen before we speak, to be a people who engage and not withdraw, a people who are curious to understand and to learn what the story is behind the position. If we work at this, we can be an anchor institution in the community of Oxford, and we can model for our state and our region what it looks like to love people across difference. I'm not naive. I don't think this is going to be easy, but I think that this is what we're called to do, to be the kind of people who build bridges and to reweave the social fabric, to bring healing to our land. So where do we start? Just as we've done in the other videos, I want you to start by thinking about and making a list, a mental list or a written list of some of the people you know who are bridge builders, the kind of people who are community builders, who reweave the social fabric. What makes them that way? What are some of the virtues that you see in their life that you think are worthy of imitation? And then think about what it might mean for you to be a bridge builder. What is one thing that you could do to step across whatever the boundary or the line is between you and somebody else, to be the kind of person who builds new bridges and heals our community here at the church or within the community of Oxford or across our state or region. Together, we're called to be Christ-centered people, and we can inspire hope. We can form character, we can engage our community, and we can be bridge-building people. And if we do those things, we're going to make the world a better place. We're going to inspire and create more hope and joy and life abundant for everyone in our midst. I invite you to do this work together with me.